So I Number the Beast for me was the song that made me think, fuck, I can scream like Bruce Dickinson. I can let out that scream. Holy shit! Like, I don't know about the rest, but if that's what I got to do on stage to make people look up and go, oh shit, then that's what I'm gonna do.
Like I say, Bruce Dickinson very much for me is kind of the catalyst that made me enjoy that type of singing. He was the first person that, really made that kind of high vocal, really sound great to me.
My heroes were guys like, obviously, Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, George Lynch, Warren DeMartini, and in particular a guy called Vita Bratta from White Lion. And his kind of style really, I try and use as much of it as I possibly can, with the sort of tap bending stuff. What I mean by that is your left hand or your fretting hand to kind of bend the taps.
Hi guys, Liam from Hell's Addiction here. I've been asked just to speak about albums that have influenced me personally as a guitar player from the beginning of time, really. What sort of made me want to get into that style of music and be in a band. So we'll start where every good story should start, and that's with, this is in no particular order by the way, but that's with Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. The epitome of a rock and roll album for me, really. The sound, the attitude, the songs, say no more. I mean, that hit me as a sort of 13-year-old teenager, and that's when I knew what I wanted to do. I was pick up a guitar and form a band. So that's why Appetite's in there. I don't think there's any other reason, really. Don't need any other reason. It was one of the all-time greatest rock and roll albums to ever grace the planet, really. So that's Appetite. Another big one for me, AC/DC. You can pick any album, really. But Power Age was the one that did it for me. I think that was the pinnacle of the recording, songwriting, playing. Obviously you got Bon singing. What more could you want? So that's AC/DC. Bit different, but a bit more modern. But another big influence for me. I know it's a big influence on some of the guys in Hell's Addiction as well. Poets of the Fall, Jealous Gods, just ridiculously good musicians. Great singer, great songwriters. Absolutely brilliant band. Definitely worth going to check out if they come across the pond, which they do occasionally. So go and have a look at those guys, definitely. A couple of the little bits. Skin. Neville McDonald, Mike Gray, not together anymore, but I think their self-titled album was fantastic. There's some great songs on. I think Neville's an amazing singer, and Mike's a great player. What else we got? Let's have a look. I'll leave you with a couple of others. Black Crowes, Southern Harmony and musical companion for me. They sold it to me. Mark Ford, absolutely ridiculously good guitar player. The Robinson Brothers, great songwriters, great singer. Just a brilliant album. Last but not least, Badlands, Jakey Lee's Badlands, and Ray Gillen singing. That self-titled album, absolutely brilliant from start to finish. Bit of a Zeppelin hint in there. Just check it out. Really good. Cheers. Take care.
Ronnie James Dio for me was very much the person that made me want to sing, and I very much base a lot of the stuff I do vocally around Ronnie James Dio. He's a massive inspiration, and I just always thought he was, you know, really special, as I'm sure most people did. I just thought that he stood out a mile amongst his peers in terms of his vocal technique, his vocal ability, and just as how he came across as a human being as well. Like, he was just on another level to everybody else, and you know, everyone looked up to him. He was just a very different singer. He was a metal singer, but he had this great bluesy soul to his voice as well. He wasn't just hitting high notes for the sake of it. And you know, you try and sing a Dio song and see how good of a singer you are. I've seen many a Maiden cover, many a Judas Priest cover, and you know, Dio covers, it's always like, wow, you've got to be good to tackle a Dio song. You've got to have some great pipes, because there's something a bit special about Dio. He's one of a kind, once in a generation kind of singer.
I think Holy Diver perhaps is one of the great metal albums of that era that really affected me, and going to see Ronnie James Dio at Birmingham Odeon on the Holy Diver tour was the moment that really changed my life, an epiphany that made me want to be a heavy metal singer and go on tour around the world.
One of my all-time favourite albums is the self-titled debut album by Audioslave, or Blackbird by Alter Bridge. You know, and I don't think I can fault a single piece of material that Alter Bridge has ever released. Same with Shinedown, same with Blackstone Cherry, same with Audioslave. So even Aerosmith as well, in all fairness. I can't fault a single piece of music that Aerosmith's ever brought out. So it's one of those, so finding a favourite album is a very difficult thing to do.
My favourite album is 1978, Power Age. My favourite album of all time. I'm really a big fan of their bluesy era. This is during the Bon Scott days. God rest that man's soul. What a legend. But no, this is a fantastic album, you know. It's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Pretty cool inside. No, it's got some great tracks on it. It's really, really bluesy. Rock and Roll Damnation, Down Payment Blues, one of my all-time favourites is Give Me a Bullet to Bite. But my favourite track they ever wrote was Gone Shooting. It's not a big well-known AC/DC song. If you don't know it, please give it a listen. It's track number 7 on this album. I promise you will not be disappointed.
My first band was Quo, and I'm not talking, you know, Margarita time. You know, I'm On the Level was my first album. So kind of, you know, got into that stuff. On the Level, by the way, still brilliant. You want to go and check that out. And so we were all sort of finding our own route. You know, it was kind of Quo, Rainbow, Priest. You know, all those bands became pretty important for me.
Yeah. So I was about 11 years old, and I remember being at my friend's house. I wasn't really that into music. You know, I liked the odd thing, like off the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack, but you know, I wasn't like an avid music follower. And I was at his house, and he was showing me, you know, CDs I should check out of things that were popular at the time. And as a joke, he passed me one of his older sister's CDs and was like, "Oh, you should check this out." And I remember looking at it, and it was Slipknot's first CD, the one where they're all stood there in their masks on the front cover. And I remember looking at it and being like, "Holy shit, these guys are terrifying. I am terrified of this." And I remember staring at it, and I was just completely in awe of it because I was so horrified of how scary they looked. And I remember looking at the track listing and the lyrics and being like, "Oh God, this is awful. This is so horrible." And he was like, "Do you want to borrow it?" Like joking. And I was like, no way, no thank you. And it was strange, every time I used to go around to his house, there was like this morbid curiosity that I'd always pick up that CD and just look at it. Kept looking at it and just kind of fascinated by it. And eventually, maybe 6 months down the line, I ended up borrowing it off him. And the rest is history. Yeah, it just fell at the right time, that raw aggression, you know, just how angry they were and how it sounded. It was exciting and it was exhilarating, and I remember just being like, this is incredible. And I just didn't turn my back on it. I just thought, this is fantastic, and I want more.
When my mom hears Mr. Crowley or any of those songs, even now after 30 years, 20 something, so she still remembers those songs because I used to practice those a lot, and you know, moving the needle on the vinyl, you know. So or a bit later with scrolling from CD. So it was a bit slower. There was no internet, nobody was teaching, or there was no tablatures that available. So you had to figure things out by yourselves. And that solo, Mr. Crowley solo, which is I think one of the, if not the best solos of all time, that took quite a while me to figure it out and learn. But now I can play it in my dreams.
You know, like Guns N' Roses has been a big influence. Slash and the stuff he's done has been a massive influence. Especially, there's an album called It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere, and there's a story that goes along with this that includes Devil Fire. There's a guy who I used to work with called David Rattenbury, who's a very good friend, and he's a lovely guy, and he was working with a guy called Ryan Roxie, who plays for Alice Cooper. Not Alex Cooper, Alice Cooper, the actual famous one. And they were on tour over here, and singing for Ryan Roxie's band, this band called Lost Angels, was Eric Dover, who was the singer on the first Slash's Snake Pit album, It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere. Now this album was what Slash did after Guns N' Roses split up. It was the first album he did, and it's a fabulous album. It was a big influence on me when I was a kid and growing up. And through Dave, I got to meet Eric at a gig, because they were overdoing some gigs, and Dave just was so lovely. He just said, come along and meet him. And I said, I don't want to be really fanboy and all that. And he was like, no, come along and meet him. And I was a big fanboy. And he said, come along and meet him. So I did. And we got talking and all the rest of it. And I mentioned that there was a track that we were doing on the new Devil Fire album that required another vocal. And he was like, oh, send it over, I'll have a look at it. And so I did, and then he would, like, before I knew it, Eric Dover from Slash's Snake Pit was singing on one of the Devil Fire tracks. And I still can't get over it. I mean, that was a really good day. So I have to thank Dave for setting it up, because without him it wouldn't have happened. but yeah, really, really awesome.
And I started out very much into standard, I guess, heavy metal stuff, hard rock heavy metal. So AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Iron Maiden, Scorpions. That was all the stuff that I really started out on. As I evolved, I got into lighter, more melodic bands too, like Journey and Foreigner, and progressive bands like Yes and Rush had a big influence on me.
That was Rothschild by Iron Maiden, and that riff is why I became a musician. That riff, that whole song. First time I heard it when I was 7 years old, I was absolutely blown away by it. It was so rough and ragged and punky and metal, but it was also like precise and really, really teethy metal, as I like to call it. Had proper pair of fangs. Loved Paul Di'Anno's vocals. Clive Burr's 16-beat, everything about it just made me want to be in a band, and everything about it made me want to make music. So that's why I became a musician, because I was a Rothschild myself, and so that song spoke to me and resonated with me in every possible way. And the second reason I became a musician was so that people can applaud me, because I like it when that happens.
Hey there, I'm Kyle, lead singer for Ashen Reach, and some of my influences are Dio, Ozzy Osbourne, Corey Taylor, Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington, Jack Black. To be fair, there's quite a few. Like, if it inspires me, then I kind of go for that. Like, I'll try and like learn on that, and always try and make myself the best I can be. And so, like, listening to them, they always like inspire me and influence me. So there's quite, but they are the main ones.
I think my favourite album at the moment has to be Contraband by Velvet Revolver. Obviously, because we have to start writing for album number 2 for Revival Black. I'm getting so many inspiration and ideas from that album, especially the bass lines from Duff McKagan. But then saying this though, my favourite album changes every single week. So if you come up to me next week, it'll be something completely different.
But then the band that really changed it for me was Queen. I'll never forget watching the movie Highlander, and one of their songs came on, and it just grabbed me. I was just like, who are these guys? I want to know who they are. Went out and bought the album, and from that point on, I think it just changed my whole perspective of music. And obviously Freddie Mercury's voice, what a legend, probably the best of all time.
So the first album that really influenced me was probably the only album that could get into the record shop at the time, which was Queen, Night at the Opera. And it was the album that got me into guitar playing. I remember as even a very, very young kid asking my parents, what that crying sound is. And it turned out to be Brian May's guitar. And it's one of the hardest things in the world to kind of replicate Brian May's. Really hard to get that kind of vocal quality out of it.
Getting compared to Queen is fucking great. It's wonderful. It's amazing. But I don't feel like when people say it, they realise what they're saying. It's usually just used as a way to tag a band that has a lot of vocal harmony in it. Every time I see a band that has 3 or 4 part vocal harmonies in, they always get labelled as they sound like Queen. And let's be honest, what band sounds like Queen? No band sounds like Queen. Queen sound like Queen. I don't think Twisted Illusion sounds like Queen at all. I think we have elements here and there. There's a lot of bands, I would say, that have elements. But truly, there isn't a band that sounds like Queen. And just because you have harmonies in your song, and you have really layered harmonies in your song, and then like a strong, prominent male vocal, does not necessarily mean you're influenced by them either. They have not got... Queen don't have a pattern on harmony. And it seems to be the way sometimes, but don't get me wrong, they are a massive influence. I'm a huge Queen fan. who is into music. I did meet one person once who didn't like Queen. He's no longer in Twisted Illusion anymore.
One of my favorite, funniest stories from a tour we were playing, opening up for Buck Cherry. This was a few years back. And we're at this venue up in the foothills and North Carolina, the Appalachians. And a place that used to be a strip club or was still a strip club. It just wasn't this night. And we were opening up. Crowd was pretty good. We'd go through sound check. And we must have sounded great because people start coming up to the front. And there's one lady in particular, she's pretty drunk. She's drunk. And she's just one of those instigators. You need them at every show. You know, the person who's going to scream, who's going to move, who's going to jump, shove somebody. So people start flocking to the front. We're in our first song. She's just loving it. And our bassist, Brandon, he's a showman. So he's like, okay, goes up to the front, just starts. She's reaching for his crotch. And she's just in rapture. And then all of a sudden she just... and falls out flat, straight back, knocks down a few people. Security rushes in. Everyone's just like, oh my God, what happened to this woman? And we're like, you know, most of the way through the song, we're at the crescendo of the song. So I'm sitting here just singing my ass off. Everyone's playing like crazy. And show must go on. And we're like, damn, I hope this woman didn't die. And she didn't, I don't think. They got her the hell out of there, and yeah, the show went on. It was a pretty wild night.
But I'd say the earliest incarnation of Raised by Owls is probably, we had a band that was called Pint with Rolf Harris, which is, you know, a terrible band name now. But at the time, he was still a national treasure. And I remember we were queuing for the Nemesis Alton Towers, and I think we were talking about who would be the best person to go for a pint with, and we all agreed on Rolf Harris because he was a national treasure at the time. So we called our band Pint with Rolf Harris, and we'd recorded no music, played no gigs, didn't even have a full band, and we got a t-shirt made for some reason. And the t-shirt was just this white t-shirt, and it just had a pint on it, and then it just had Rolf Harris's face like peering through it. Which at the time was just kind of, oh yeah, lovely, oh Rolf Harris, oh that's funny. Whereas now it's incredibly sinister and horrifying.
I think when it comes to funny tour stories, the one that sticks out in my mind would probably be when I met Jesse from the Eagles of Death Metal. We were going out to Holland on the ferry, and it was the weekend of the Download Festival, and we saw a big tour bus pull up into the port, like the car park bit. We were trying to guess who it was, and we were looking on the lineup, and I was like, oh, Skid Row. I think it's Skid Row. You know, they played last night, or they played today, so it could be Skid Row. I'm like, nah. So I had to look again, and I was like, oh, it could be Eagles of Death Metal, man. It says they're playing in Berlin, they're playing in Amsterdam, Belgium. I was like, that's the route. That's definitely the route. First person I saw when I got out the bus and got onto the ferry was Jesse. So I went outside. I went outside to have a cigarette and have a beer because, you know, it's like an hour and a half, couple hour journey, like a crossing. So there's not very much to do and just drink and smoke. And this was like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, so it's like a perfect time for it. And yeah, I was outside and we just got talking, and he was just like, hey man, what band are you in? Like straight away knew I was in a band. And I was like, hey man, I was like, yeah, well, an AC/DC tribute band. He's like, oh, that's fucking rad. That's rad, man. Da, da, da. Hey dude, check this out. And then so we were just like drinking and like most of the ferry journey, just outside drinking with like him, the drummer, and like the guitar player. And we were getting on, just talking about like just old music and whatever. And he was like, hey dude, check this out. And I was just like, yeah, what's up, man? And they were all like laughing, and he just showed me this photo of this guy passed out, just loads of dicks drawn on his face. And I was like, oh, it's fucking great, man. Like, you stitched him up. And he was like, yeah, man, that's why I love taking my son on tour.
my good lady friend Lucy, she bought me a VIP meet and greet pass to see Steel Panther in Rock City in Nottingham. So we got there and everything. We were in the queue and it was our turn, so we went round the screen to meet them and whatnot. And Satchel, the guitarist, comes up to me straight away, looks me up and down like that, and he goes, "Hey man, I bet you can't do 20 push-ups." And I says, "I bet you I'll do 60. And they went, "Whoa, here's the big man, whoa," like it. So I got down, done me press-ups, and they started counting for me. About 40th press-up through, I noticed they were all counting in the wrong timing. I was like, this ain't right, so I looked up, and they were all around my missus. All kissing her all over, all around her. She was loving it. Absolute pricks, mate. And this is why you should never trust your missus with Steel Panther. Don't never leave her on her own with them, man. And that's it.
There you go. We were at Donington. Five Finger Death Punch. Not a great fan of them, but they were playing. And my mate loves them. Best band in the world. He adores the front man, he adores them all. We're at Donington anyway, so we're sat down. I'm having a drink. And I'm looking at the monitors, and Ivan Moody's walking around the crowd with a mic in his hand. So I'm watching Ivan Moody, I'm thinking, hey, look at this lad. So he's walking around the crowd, I'm thinking, he's going to come over here in a minute. He's walking around, and he walks up to my mate, who's walking down from the bar at the top. He's got the mic in his hand. My mate's got Five Finger Death Punch t-shirt on. Anyway, Ivan Moody goes, hey man, nice t-shirt. Who you here to see, man? He goes, oh, I'm here to see Five Finger Death Punch. You know, I'm really looking forward to it, my favourite band. He's going, oh man, yeah, right. Who's your favourite? He goes, oh man, the lead singer, he said, he's unbelievable, like, you know. And I'm sat there looking at the screen going, no. He hadn't twigged. He didn't realise that is the lead singer of a Five Finger Death Punch, Ivan Moody. He said, what would you say, man, if you ever met him? He go, oh man, I'll be blown away. And Ivan Moody looks at the camera and just smiles and walks off. Anyway, I'm sat there in absolute disbelief. Absolute disbelief. He comes down, sits next to me. I went, all right? He went, yeah, that was strange. He said some random bloke just come up to me with a microphone in his hand and interviewed me. I went, who, Ivan Moody? You what? That was Ivan Moody from Five Finger Death Punch.
Now, tonight's story is based on fear. Pathological, irrational fear. Sorry, Kel. Our frontman, Kellen Bynon, is terrified to the point of being inconsolable of geese. You know, those fluffy things that float about in ponds. Terrified of them. He was in a town called Volvac in Holland, which is a fantastic place because we have some great friends there and diehard supporters of the band because they were the first place that ever played us on the continent and invited us onto a radio station in their local town, Volvac. We stopped at a like a family caravan park thing. So I had like a rec room with like a pool table in it, restaurant, swimming pool. Had like little play areas and stuff, sand pits for like the family orientation thing. But one key thing it had was a pond. And not only fish live in a pond, as you know. Geese. Geese like ponds. Funny that, isn't it? It really is. But anyway, so on the way in, you know, you go in and you just give your piece of paper over your document, the barrier comes up. John and I drove through, and I think we both had the same idea, because Kellen and Ched was asleep in the back of each other's car, sort of thing. And we both got out and sort of looked at each other like, did you see the pond? I did. He's scared of geese. There was a few in there as well. So we didn't mention it to him. We thought, well, we've got to perform tonight and we don't want him rattled. He's got to get out there and do his thing. So we went the long way around to our accommodation, got our bags in, settled in, cup of tea, as you do. Then a few hours later, pack up, mosey off to the show, get down there, sound check, dinner, you know, the whole thing. Anyway, the show goes off without a hitch. We met some friends there which we hadn't seen since the year before when we headlined a little festival called Volokstock. And great show. We're all having a great time afterwards. It's a bar called The Mads. It's like a music college. There's like little rooms and rehearsal spaces there as well. So there's a lot of young students that are like 18 to 20. You know, they're all having a good time and a few drinks. Have a foosball pool a lot. So we join in. You know, we have a right laugh. Anyway, so after we finished the show, it must have been about 3 o'clock in the morning time we got back. Ched and Kellen had a few to drink. It was me and John who were driving. We was waiting till we got back to the accommodation to really let our hair down, sort of thing. And so Ched marches off into the night. There's bass in one hand and his head in the other. And Kellen follows both my guitar cases. One of the few times he helps out. He dropped them, unfortunately, but we'll get to that bit in a minute. And I think Kellen was bugging Ched a little bit. It's funny. He had a few drinks. He was just poking him, you know, sort of thing. Anyway, so Ched thought, I'm going to steer this bastard near the fucking pond. And he did. So they're marching towards the pond and Kellen follows. He's on the wires. It's pitch black. He can't see nothing. And obviously he wants to follow Ched. He's getting under his skin. He's trying to bug him a little bit. To the point where I think Ched had enough of it. And he sort of basically put down his bass and his head. And he goes to wade into the pond to pick up a live goose to sort of put between himself and Kellen. Now, sadly, we weren't there to see it, but we heard the commotion. All you heard was a lot of and all the flapping, and we just saw Kellen bolting towards the car park, just sort of thing. And I said, "Where are my guitars?" He goes, "Fuck your guitars! There's geese out there!" Oh dear God, he's shaking like a leaf. He just, the whole walk back to the accommodation, Kellen is just like walking, looking over his shoulder. He's hiding behind us. He's like, "Guys, I can't do this. If they're near the accommodation, I got to sleep in the car." God, that guy and geese.
We were playing another gig, same city, different venue, about a year later, and again, I was having a nice little jump up on stage on my stage box and rolled my ankle and fell backwards, missing the drum kit by quite literally 1 or 2 inches. And the funniest thing probably that happened to has happened to us on stage is the last gig we played in Cardiff. So pretty rowdy crowd of theirs, you know, playing in Fuel. It was pretty packed in there, sort of 70, 80 people, and rammed all the way down to the front. There was a chap in the wheelchair at the front, which was really cool. Come back to that in a second. And this guy takes a t-shirt off in the front row, starts waving it around, gives it to me, I wave it around, put it over John's mic stand, acting like a bra, because obviously we don't get bras thrown at us because no one wants to give up their personal stuff. But that's cool anyway. Cool t-shirt, happy days. Next thing I know, guy in a wheelchair is leaning forward, giving me his prosthetic leg, and wave up on the last song. That was quite cool. So I was waving prosthetic leg for the last part of the song above my head. I don't think I'll ever get anything as like ridiculous as that. That was pretty insane. It was pretty cool.
We played in Sala Palatuli, and it the promoter walked in and to the dressing room after we'd had a precarious sound check anyway, and nothing was going according to plan, and he walked in and went, "Yeah, the band before you, they can't perform because the desk, their sound desk has basically had problems with it. I won't go into what the details of what it were, but they've had problems with their sound desk, and they won't perform without the desk because there's a few things that they need to use to do it. So we're in trouble of breaking contract with the venue. Can you perform for 45 minutes? And on this tour, we only had half an hour. Everything was very planned out, and we only had half an hour. We couldn't do any more. So, and I think we were due to be on stage in about 45 minutes, and we were like, right, okay, what are we going to do? So we literally clubbed together, came up with a plan. I was going to talk a lot, which, as you can see, I'm really good at. And we were going to talk a lot, and we were going to do some guitar solos and some bits in front, so a load of audience participation. We were going to roll around on the end and basically pad out the set a lot, and it went down so well. There's some great YouTube videos of it on YouTube if you go and check out Devil Fire Live, if you go to the YouTube channel. And it was amazing. It was one of those gigs where everything came together. We got out at the end of it, and I remember walking backstage, and this girl grabbed me from behind, and she said, "You've got to go back on stage. They're still applauding." And we went back on, and we literally bowed, and we got a standing ovation. It was like, still mega proud moment. So yeah, so that was a really good story, and considering everything had gone wrong that day. Yeah, I remember a sound engineer during our sound check throwing an SM58 at one of the other techs because nothing was working in this theatre.
It was 2007, Donington. Iron Maiden were headlining. That weekend, Machine Head, Hell Yeah, were playing. And they kind of nearly incited a riot. Hell Yeah came on stage with Dimebag Darrell's, I'm not sure if it was his wife, I'm not sure it was, but they came on stage with Machine Head. Machine Head, they were all on stage talking about Dime, and they kind of put the blame on the media. It kind of lit the fire a little bit. Anyway, Iron Maiden, the crowd were mental. It was a mad weekend. The crowd were hyped. You had all sorts. It was just mad. I've gone most years, but that was one of the maddest years I've ever known. I mean, I've just never seen anything like it, to be honest. But Iron Maiden came on stage, and halfway through the set, all these things started getting passed over. Deck chairs, you name it. Tents. There was all sorts coming over. Next thing you know, there's a fire to the left of me. There's a fire to the right. There's a massive fire in front of me. And everybody's pushing and shoving, and it was getting a bit out of control, to be honest. The next thing you know, security come rushing through, pushing people out of the way, putting the fire out. Then another fire starts up, and another fire. Iron Maiden frontman Bruce Dickinson stops and says, "Right, everybody, please, calm down." Anyway, they finish. Next thing you know, security have come around us and are pushing us out through the gates. I've turned and looked across, and right in front of me is where a Chinese caravan with a wok inside where they've been cooking. It's been flipped over, and there's about 30 blokes on it, jumping up and down. So we're being ushered and pushed and shoved down. Anyway, we've gone back into the town, and it's just madness. Everybody's running fucking riot. I mean, they're pushing the fucking Irish fencing over. The toilets are being blown up. I think that was the year after that was the year they stopped anybody taking any gas canisters in. They blew everything up. Anyway, we get back into the campsite. We're sat down having a drink, laughing about it, because at the time it was fucking hilarious, really, when you look back on it. You know, you could hear a bang and then you'd hear everybody cheering, you know, like, you know, at a festival when you hear the wave of sound. It was like that every 5 minutes, you know. Next thing you know, my mate comes running up to me and he went, "Fuck this, I'm getting out of here. I'm gone." And I'm like, "What's the matter, mate?" He said, "My daughter is in her tent, about to go to sleep. Some asshole's just set a light to it." Fuck that. So I've kind of looked at Mike and I've gone, "Right, fair play, mate." So I've looked at the rest of them and I've gone, "I'm off, I'm out of here." With that, I've got about 30 fucking blokes coming running towards me. I'm thinking, what the hell? "Hey mate, come with us, we're going to go fucking mental." I'm like, what do you mean? "We're going to go and push the Irish fencing down and we're going to go into the fucking VIP area." I'm like, "Yeah, good luck with that, lads." "You got any booze?" I'm like, "Yeah, take it. You know, I've given them everything I've got and I've got out of there." I mean, looking back at it now, you can laugh about it, but at the time, fucking hell. Scary. That was my story from 2007 when Iron Maiden headlined Donington.
I still remember when I went to buy the And Justice for All vinyl, because there was no such things as internet or even CDs back then. So I had my, you know, BMX cross bike, and it was winter, snowing in Finland, the weather was awful, but I knew that the album was coming, and I bicycled many kilometers to watch, you know, Blizzard got the album and got home totally, freezing and stuff, and I went to a cold shower and then sat on our living room with my father's, stereo system and put the headphones on, and remember when Blackened started to play, I was like, whew, wow.
We were just about to sound check and our guitarist Rich wasn't there, and I was like, shit, we're going to sound check in like an hour. I was like, he's normally there with us, so I was like, give him a ring. I was like, Rich, where are you? He's like, oh, I'm at home. I was like, what are you doing? I'm in the bath. I was like, what the fuck are you doing in the bath? We're going to sound check in like an hour and a half. I was like, shit. I was like, yeah, come on, man. Get out the bath. So he raced over, we did the sound check, gig, smashed it, one of the best gigs I ever did, it was amazing. So, yeah, get your times right and get your bath times right too.
Funny road stories. As a band, we always say, because it was funny, when we first played Broken live, we'd written it, obviously, come out, we were really excited to play this to the crowd that's there for us in Birmingham. And as he does all the spiel, tells us what Broken's about, it's a heartbreaking story of a guy who kills his daughter in a car crash. So the crowd are into it, they're waiting to hear this song. And just as finishes explaining it, Andy, who's doing his own, getting his drums ready to go, he hears a silence in his brain. It's like, I need to do something for that. He's just said something, so he goes, ba-dum, psh. Dead silence. And we all just sort of turn around on stage like, and just look at him. And then I think it takes a couple of seconds and then it dawns on him what's just happened. We've got a photo somewhere as he's realising, he's like, oh no, but that's pretty funny.
Hello, my name is Sam and I'm from the satirical extreme metal band Raised by Owls.
I see you running your mouth, but I don't see you washing your hands. You better recognize this is real. COVID-19. Short of breath, I'm gonna cough. Step back or I'm knocking off your block. Wash your hands, don't touch your face. Thank me and I'll put you in your place. By all that silent round.
There's one actual internet comment that I always think about when it comes to death metal, which is listening to death metal for the first time is a lot like drinking your first beer. When you're quite young and you drink that first beer, it tastes horrible because it's just like, oh, how can anyone drink this? And that's what it's like when you first listen to death metal. And then as you have more beers, and you get accustomed to the taste and you really enjoy it, as you do with death metal. Now I'm an alcoholic who loves death metal. So we started as a bedroom session, and it was not meant, for the public. It was never intended to be what it is now. We were never intending to play it live. We were never even intending to put it online. It was like an in-joke. That it started as me, Alex, and Lee, and we just used to write these short, daft songs to just amuse ourselves with. And as long as we made ourselves laugh, that was fine. That's all we were bothered about.
If you haven't done it, you tell or in stone. Watch for 30 seconds so you had to feel it too. Take this information, stick it in your head. Because if you don't, you're not gonna understand.
It wasn't until a few years later that Alex was just like, oh, do you want to come round mine and just chill for a bit? And I was like, yeah, cool. I went round and he was like, oh, listen to these riffs I wrote. And they just sounded like Carcass. Me and Alex were huge fans of Carcass. We still are. And I remember being like, this is amazing. This is really cool, mate. And then Lee got involved and he started writing a few things. And it kind of devolved into, rather than us writing music trying to be serious, like I first wrote the lyrics Rod Stewart, or the title Rod Stewart, and that's where it kind of shifted. And that just felt a lot more natural. The silly lyrics, the silly themes felt so much more natural to me rather than trying to be serious.
No, I ain't scaremongering, but get ready for the outbreak down. Self-isolate, go kill Corona. Spit tickets in the face. Go kill Corona. Put that pussy in its place. Go kill Corona. Break a jaw with one swift kick. Get back to being a man, you little prick.
So we started practicing, and then hilariously our first ever gig was Metal to the Masses, which is the competition to play Bloodstock Festival, and that turned out to be our first ever show. And we were like, what are we doing? Like, we were practicing, we were like, oh god, we're not ready. Why are we entering a competition when we're not ready? But we played it, and it didn't go horrendously. We didn't win, we didn't get through the first round, but it went all right. I would say it was a success. And then they brought us back as the wild cards later on in the competition, and then we won and ended up playing Bloodstock in our first year of gigging. So.
Bloodstock Festival, bang your fucking heads!
Nice to see you, to see you!
Nice.
The rest is history, really, and we've kind of done the silly videos ever since. I think the videos are a staple of what we do now. Me personally, I really enjoy writing them. I write and I sit and write them here in my bedroom and think of all the daft ideas and write them up and send them to the guys and then work out how we're going to film them and what we're going to film, and I really get a kick out of that. I'd say that that's probably my favourite bit of the band at the moment.
We've been offered Bloodstock Festival.
Which one's Beefstock again?
Weren't Bloodstock that indie festival we played?
Nah, that was London Death Fest.
God, I wish it was an indie fest. I hate all this shouty stuff.
No, none of them, none of them. Seriously, can you not remember? It's easily the biggest show we've ever played. It was in that massive tent. It was rammed. We won that competition to play it, remember? Metal to the Masses. There was that bloke in the gas mask wanking in the crowd. What else? It was sponsored by Hobgoblin.
Oh, yeah! Yeah, Bloodstock, of course! Lovely, tasty beer.
Yeah, I'm chuffed they've asked us back, to be fair.
Who else is playing this year?
Hang on, I'll have a look at the lineup. Judas Priest.
Who?
Never heard of him.
Okay, Devin Townsend.
Kevin Townsend? Doesn't he play for Crystal Palace?
I don't think so.
Not heard of any of them. Anyone else?
You heard of Behemoth?
Nope.
Saxon?
Wasn't he a villain on Doctor Who?
Hatebreed?
Bit aggressive.
Conjurer?
Aren't they a comedy metal band?
No, I don't think so. They're quite serious.
Oh, right.
Speaking of comedy metal, are Footprints in the Custard playing?
No, I don't think so.
Thank God I hate them.
Skindred?
No.
Toxic Holocaust?
What's with all these violent names?
Yes, Violence are playing.
Pardon?
You did say Violence, didn't you?
No, I said they have violent names.
The Black Dahlia Murder?
I've literally never heard of the Black Dahlia Murder, let alone listen to them.
I can't believe you've not heard of any of them. It's an amazing lineup. It's such a good opportunity for us.
Yeah, should be alright.
Be right.
Yeah, you know. Why not?
This band.
Yeah, the videos are very silly and not to be taken seriously. But I think that sums up Raised by Owls perfectly. You know, I wouldn't take us seriously at all. We're not meant to be taken seriously. We're, you know, the music, we always want the music to hold up as serious as, you know, we wanted it to sound like awesome death metal and awesome grindcore, that if you took away the silly lyrics and titles, it would hold up as a decent metal song. And then just inject the silliness over the top, and yeah, that's us. That's Raised by Owls.
Heavy metal and rock and roll.
Heavy metal. I love heavy metal. You got thrash metal, you got power metal, you've got classic rock, you've got southern rock. If I was to choose my favourite,